So I'll start by talking about my patterns. First of all, ignore these other lines. This was drawn on some scrap paper. You'll have to start with your dimensions. Figure out what your needs are and how large you want your bows to be. Mine are 7 inches across and 3.5 inches tall. I came to those dimensions just through some trial and error. Maybe the ratio is pretty good. I don't know if you wanted to, make them not that good at math. Whatever it would be, 10 inches and then percentage. Anyway, the way that I got my pattern to be symmetrical is I picked a curve and figured out how I wanted it to curve. I used French curves to make it nice and smooth, and then I started folding things in half. Fold it in half there to get the curve to come out here, and then half again to get that, and then half again to get it over here and over there. And using graph paper worked as well. It helped as well, I should say. I'm going to post a photo of my patterns. So, because each of these squares, the larger squares is 1 inch and then 1/8. The smaller squares are 1/8 of an inch, so you guys should be able to translate it off of the screen. This is the tail for the little band type bows for the bodice, and then this is the tail for these guys. You'll notice that on both tails the lines aren't straight, even though you're imitating a ribbon that would have been straight. It just doesn't work to leave the sides straight and then the end chopped off. You've got to curve those to get that kind of cartoonish, really full bow. It's just the way that it works. And this, of course, there was no folding in half on this. It was just trial and error in getting it to be the right shape. So now I'll talk about construction piece. I cut 3 pieces of fabric. I'm using this as my back. You don't have to. You may use your decorative fabric for both sides, and that way your bow won't look like that when you flip it over. I used a backing like this because when I started this process I had very little of this silk, and then some other plans changed and I have plenty of it now, but I wanted them to match the first bows I made, so I used that. I also interfaced the silk with this just cotton lightweight canvas stuff because it was very gauzy and I didn't think that it was going to lay well. Assembly. Obviously I did right side to right side. Be sure to back stitch at the beginning and end, because even though it's not going to be like a load bearing seam, when you turn it, when you turn it so that it looks like this, turn it to the outside, that'll pull out and it'll just be a problem. Also, when you get down to this corner, you want to do 1 stitch that's at an angle like that. This wouldn't usually be so frayed. I had to turn it back to the right side to show you guys this, and you see that's cut really close. That might fray. Some of these over here did, and I just put a drop of fray check on them and they stopped. With everything assembled, you're going to want to grade your seam allowance back very close. The seam is never going to take any weight. You can get it really close and still be okay. I've gotten it, what is this, 1/8 of an inch? Yeah, 1/8 of an inch, and I think it's going to be okay. I will amend this video one day if it pulls out. Here's a tail that's just been turned. It has still not been pressed. When it's pressed, it will look crisper like this. In order to do this, to get these little tiny points to be nice, you're going to have to find something that's pointy, but not so pointy. Dritz makes a product that they call a point turner. It's on the tip of a hem gauge. It's a really crappy hem gauge, but the reason it's a really crappy hem gauge is because the point is in the way of you getting it up against things. But the point works pretty well. However, I do prefer this. This is just a round-ended needle. It comes on that card of weird needles that we've all seen in the cloth store that has the U-shaped needles and the leather needles. This is on that card. It's one of them that's included in the package. I'm going to talk a little bit about ironing technique, because that's a major trick of this. Basically just watch, because I don't really know how to describe what I'm doing. I guess I kind of pull that that the seam sort of apart or flat, roll it back, and then just chase the iron. Same thing on all sides, kind of pull it open and then roll. Iron, I have it, definitely have steam on for this. Pull and roll. And I'm on a slightly high setting for the silk, but it's only going to happen the one time. It can take it. And voila! So I do want to append a little bit to something I said earlier about trimming back. Trial and error for me too. Maybe right where you're going to turn it, make it not 1/8 of an inch. I'm just going to go forward with this because it's all going to be in the pinch and it's not the decorative fabric, but that might be a source of heartbreak. So again, maybe just leave a little more when you're grading at the place where you're going to turn it. My pattern is designed to overlap a 1/2 inch back here, not an inch. So we're not going to do a seam where we stitch right here. We're going to do like this and overlap 1/2 an inch, which I'm not going to be able to pin in place with one hand, especially not my left. And you see this one matches up nicer. This one is being wider because of the little mishap we just discussed. But again, you'll see how that's not going to matter. And I still, even though I have enough silk, I don't want to cut up more silk, which I would have to do. I may hit that with some top stitching. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll hit that with some top stitching just to stop it from raveling. Okay, we're making progress. Sorry about assembly for a second. These are constructed similar to these. They have a loop like this, that's this part, and then the tails are stitched together in a similar fashion in the center. You can make these tails, I guess either one of them in theory, as one piece and then turn them out, like leave this or whatever, turn them out and then slip stitch right here. But I think it would be a lot harder to get to the points, and I really like to avoid handwork because it just slows things down so much. But we're about to have some handwork. So yeah, if you want to try that, I don't know, put in the comments how it went. So the main difference in construction is that these have this little tail piece in here and then that on top, like so. These, on the other hand, that are going to go on the bodice, are stacked up like this, and then things are pinched. I went ahead and put the little pinch pleats in the tail pieces. I wanted to note that if you have a choice, like if you feel like that you can control the pinch, I angle it down, up, because I think that looks prettier than it going down. I think it just makes like a more, catches more light or something. I don't know, casts less of a shadow. I think it makes a prettier bow. I can't get it under the machine anymore, so now we switch to hand stitching. I can hear the collective ugh now. Yeah, so I just pinned it in place, and now I'm going to stitch these two together. Doesn't need to be pretty, just has to get there. Okay, so with those loosely hand stitched in place, see, we are going to talk about pinchers. I'm going to do a little bit of a wider pincher on these just because I think it'll look better. This is not interfaced. It's obviously the same fabric, but it's not interfaced. It's just a strip folded in third. Okay, so this was a scrap I found. I'm going to see if it works. I just measured the pinchers on the bows for the skirt, and they were 1 1/4. I don't remember trying to make them any particular measurement, but that's what they are. And so I'm going to try this one at 1 1/2 inches and just see what I think about it. There's our strip. Press it really good. Make sure a nice crisp strip so it looks almost like a ribbon. And like I mentioned, I had already zigzagged it, and I guess I didn't fold it in thirds. I sort of maybe I did on that one, but then I wanted to use this little scrap, and so it just meets in the back. I think it's going to be okay. So 1.5 inches was too wide. I went back to 1.25 inches. The next step is to secure the strip to the base back here. Again, by hand. All right, so I got it attached back here, and in my opinion, this is the hardest part of the process. So I have my cinematographer, so I have both hands free. So you get it, pull it over, and you got to be kind of stern with it. Get it behind without any wrinkles or wobbles. All right, now you just have to get it to be pretty, I guess. And then, it's a little quick for and then, hold on. Is that doing good? But so on and so forth. Took a lot longer to explain this than I thought it would. Okay, so it's hand stitched right there. Kind of sloppy, but that's fine. I zigzagged it there. Can you see? Yeah. And so then it's going to get cinched up and hand stitched about right there. And then it'll get cut off about there, like 3/8. Just to give it some, I guess you could cut it right next to the zigzag. And then they will finally